Fine, so we will start with Testng today. Till now, we have made standalone scripts in Selenium. Okay, we have not seen how to build test cases and all. Okay, so basically, in a nutshell, I had also explained you earlier. I'll tell you that when we are building the project in Selenium, okay, framework in Selenium, then we have got individual test cases. All right, so these are your test cases. This must be test case 1, test case 2, okay, test case 3, 4, like that. Okay, so you want to execute these test cases in a certain order, one after another. Okay, or you want to run them parallelly. Okay, right. Apart from running them parallelly, you would also want that you end up generating some kind of a report, HTML report. Okay, you want that report should have screenshots and all, everything, logs and all. Then the data in the test cases should be provided from an Excel file or a properties file. So how do you do that? Fine. Then you need to integrate this project with Jenkins and all, continuous integration. You want to run it on grid. Okay. So it is not just about running the test cases, it's about various other things. Right. Fine. Now, to do this, we have a centralized controller. This centralized controller is known as Testng. People also use JUnit. They also use Cucumber, BDD, right? So there are various solutions for these. So these tools, what they do is that they will read the data from Excel file, call the corresponding test case in a certain order. Okay. Help you integrate it with Jenkins and grids. Okay. Help you generate HTML reports. All right. Fine. So this is how it runs. Okay. Now, out here, I'll create what I'll do. First of all, I told you, right? You have to integrate Testng as a plugin inside Eclipse. Okay. So what you need to do is that you need to go to Google and type Testng Eclipse. You need to install Testng. I told you in the last class as well. So you can go to this first link and go to install the plugin page, and hold on. You copy this link. This is the link. Fine. And then go to help, install new software. Okay. And paste this URL. Okay. You will see this screen will go, Testng will come up after some time when all the libraries are loaded. And you can click on next, next, next and install. Your Eclipse will restart. In between, you might get an error as well. Just ignore that. And then you go to Windows Show View, Other, and under Java, you will see Testng. Okay. Now you can create a new project. I'll just create a new Java project, call it Testng or day 13 underscore Testng. Okay, so I'll just take some few dummy examples to explain you um, how Testng works. Okay, so under the source folder, I'll create a new package. I'll call this package as test cases. Now, under this, I can build my test cases. All right. Suppose I build a sample test case and I call that test case as say buy from Amazon test. Okay, right. And you make a test case at the rate test public void, say first you log into amazon.com. Select, so this will be my test case. If I write at the rate test, okay, this becomes my test case in testng. Alright, you move the mouse over the error and you will see the option to add testng as a library. Okay, right. So you add testng as a library, you will see that testng will be added as a library. Then again you will get the error. Error will not go away. You move the mouse over the error and select the option import test. Okay, from org.testng.annotations. You have to import it from this package. So you will have this at the rate test public void login. So this becomes your test case. Inside it, I will just print. There is no main function inside testng. Okay, there is nothing known as main function inside testng. So you just print over here login test execution. Okay. So when you run this code, so what you will see that you'll see an output like this. Total test runs are 1, failures are 0, skips are 0, and there will be a tab known as results of running the test where you will see the results. Login will be written in green. Okay, this means the test has passed. Alright, so because Testng is installed as a plugin, it gives you all these options. Fine. So you can have as many tests as possible inside a file. You can write at the rate test, public void, say select product. Okay, right. Then you can have another test case at the rate test, public void, make payment. Okay, right. So out here I will print selecting product and making payment. Fine. So when you run this code, it gives you a console output, login test executing, making payment, selecting product. Okay, the order is not the same. That is the problem. First login, then make product, and then uh, select product has been executed. Okay, first this, and then this. The order is not the one which you had expected that it will run from top to bottom. Okay, so for that you need to prioritize the test cases. In the bracket over here, you can write priority equals to 1 for this test case. Okay, so you don't think that the order will be from top to bottom. That's never going to happen. Okay, priority equals to 1, 2, and 3. All right. So when you run this now, you will see that in the output, the login, select product, and make payment have been executed. Moreover, moreover, out here, if I refresh the project, right click and refresh the project, I will see a test output folder. The test output folder will hold the default testng reports. Okay, if you open index.html, if I go to index.html and if I open it in the browser, then these are the default testng reports. They are not so impressive. Okay, we will see extent reports and all, which are very good. Okay, extent reports, they look something like this. Extent reports, they look something like this. They are impressive. Okay, they are good. You can present it to the client as well. Okay, so they have got the test cases on the left side and all that stuff. You can add screenshots in these reports. Okay, you can switch to a different color or view. Then you can have this dashboard view as well in form of pie chart, graphs and all. So you have everything in these reports. They are really good. Okay, we'll see how to generate them. Fine. Now, this was about simple tests. 3 tests they executed. I prioritized them. Now, how do you do the validation if I have to fail the test case or something? Okay. So suppose I make a new class known as validations, where I'll explain you how to do the validations. Okay. Suppose I have a test case at the rate test public void, say app test, anything you are testing. Now, what is validation? Okay. In validation, we have an expected value and we have an actual value. That's what testing is all about. Okay, you have some expected stuff, you have some actual stuff, and you have to compare both of them. Okay, right. So in Testng, you have a class known as assert. The assert class helps you to perform all the validations. Right. So if you move your mouse over this assert, okay, you will not get any option. Right. Hold on. If I write assert dot, you'll get a lot of options. Okay. Make sure you select any assert equals. Okay, make sure you are selecting assert equals from org.testng.assert. Sometimes people select it from JUnit. JUnit is also similar to testng. Both do the same things. Okay, assert.assert equals. And make sure org.testng.assert is imported. Okay, assert equals the static function inside the assert class. You send the actual value. The actual value will be coming from the application. Suppose you have to get the title of the page, then you'll write driver.getTitle and all. Expected value you will keep in Excel file or a properties file. Okay, so I'll write the actual value as A and expected value as A. Both of them are equal, right? So when you run this, what happens is it runs with no failures. It's passing. However, if I keep both of them as different, A and B, and if I run this, then it fails. Expected B but was found A. The test case is failing. Alright, you will see that total failures are 1. Alright, so you can use the assert class to validate. There is one more function known as assert dot assert true. Done. You give a condition over here like 3 greater than 2 and a message. This is actually your failure message. I'll tell you what this is and where you work with it. Okay, right. So assert true 3 greater than 2 and you give the failure message. Assert 2 3 greater than 2, basically what I am telling is I am telling that make sure that this condition is evaluating to true. If this condition evaluates to true, then the test will pass. If I run this test, this will pass. Failures are 0. Okay, right. However, if I'm writing assert or if I give a condition where it is false, 3 greater than 12 is false. Okay, if I run this, then this test will fail. You'll get a failure message. Whatever is the failure message you write, you get it over there in the reports, in the console. Whatever message you write. Now, where is this kind of assertion used? Okay, you can write say assert dot assert equals, oh sorry, assert true. You have to put a condition, right? Okay. Condition is something like 3 greater than 12. So that condition can be a Boolean condition. Okay. So you can write like is element present. Remember we had made this function. If you will pass over the x path of the element, and in case this function returns you false, then an error message will be thrown that element not present. Remember we had made this function is element present, which used to check the presence of the element on the web page. So if it returns false, that element is not present, then you can throw an exception like this, right? Sometimes you are 100% sure that you are at a place where the test has failed. For example, if you click on a link and the next page doesn't load, you get a 404 error. Or even if the next page loads, it loads the wrong next page. Okay, something like that where you are 100% sure that the test has failed. So you can deliberately fail the test as well. You can write assert.fail and you can give the whatever is the failure message, your failure message. This message you can give, it will come up in the output. Okay, so when you run this, you get a failure. All right, fine. Now the problem is this is a hard assert. What do you mean by hard assert? If I write system.out.println a and if I copy this line or I write over here start and end. If I run this code, then you see it prints start, but it never prints end. The execution will stop on the line on which the assertion is failing. If assertion fails, stop. It will stop if assertion fails. Now we don't want that. Okay, sometimes the errors are very minor errors. Maybe there is some spelling mistake in the title of the button, or there is some condition which is not so critical. You don't want to just stop the test case. You want to move forward. Okay, so in that case, we use soft assertions. Okay, we use soft assertions. I will make another test case. Public void soft assert. Okay, I will give this test case priority as 1 and I will give this test case priority as 2. Okay, and I'll create the object of soft assert. Okay, right, and you create the object of this class soft assert. Fine. Once you have created the object, you can write say soft assert dot. You'll get the same function assert equals. You can compare a with say a soft assert dot assert equals. You can write z with x. Fine. Soft true. A condition 3 greater than 2. Hold on, guys. I'll tell you. 3 greater than 12 and soft assert dot deliberately fail the test case with some failure message. So over here this condition should pass, this should fail. Okay, this should pass, this should fail, and this should fail. Soft assert class helps you to report multiple errors as well. It will not stop the flow over here. Okay, you have to write in the end. In the end, you have to write soft assert dot assert all. This line is important. Okay, so if I write over here system.out.println, say position 1, position 2, and position 3. Okay, so this will fail, this will fail, and this will fail. So when you run this code, you will see that you get two failures. Okay, both the tests have failed. The top one has also failed because this condition had failed. Hold on, let me comment the top one. I'll comment everything in the top test case. Okay, and when I run this code, it prints over here position 1, position 2, and in the output or in console you can say expected X but was not but found Z, failure message 2 came up, and some failure message. All the three messages are coming up in the console as well as in the results of running the test. You will see all the three failure messages. Okay, fine. And position 3 will not be printed. If assert all lines has some failure, any one failure, the program will stop on this line. Okay, so it will assert each and every of these conditions, and if any one of them fails, okay, assert all will stop. So we prefer to write it in the end. However, if I give everything as equal, as true, so this will again, now this will pass, everything will pass. And I will comment this line of failure. Okay, and if I run this code, then assert all will not find any failure. Okay, and in the results, hold on, there is some failure. Oh, okay. And if I run this, you see that position 3, 1, 2, all three are printed. Okay, so if in the case this line never detects a failure, the control will continue forward. So we prefer to write it in the end. Okay, so soft asserts, they help you to detect multiple failures and to report multiple failures. All right, fine. Coming back to the test case, buy from Amazon test. So we had got three test cases. All three of them are in this particular class. Only suppose the login test fails. I'll write over here assert dot fail, and I'll just write failing login test. Okay, and if I run this code, buy from Amazon, sorry, you will see that login test is failing, select product and make payment are passing. But this is a little weird thing. I have put up an assertion over here which is failing the login test, but other two tests are running. Logically, this should not happen. You can also skip a test case. To skip a test case, you can write throw new skip exception, skipping login test, because at times when you're running thousands of test cases, you just cannot run all of them. You want to skip few of them. So we keep a flag in the Excel according to that we skip the test cases. That I'll talk about later on. But you can throw a new skip exception inside the test case in case you want to skip the login test. So when you run this code, what happens is it will write over here total test runs are 3 and skips are 1. So that means that login test has skipped. Okay. But if the login test is skipping or failing, skipping will come in yellow. Okay. If it is skipping or failing, other two tests should not execute. So you have to put up some dependency between the test cases. So that is done through here. You can put a comma and you can write depends on methods and you can give the name of the test login. And you can make payment, you can make it dependent on sorry, this is a array and you can put up both the functions over here that this test case is dependent on login as well as select product. If any one of them is skipping or failing, then this should not execute. Now if I run this, then in the results you will see that all three are skipped because login test got skipped. If login test was failing, then also other two would be skipping. Right. So when you run this, you see that. Okay. So this is how it works. Fine. Okay, you can put up dependencies between the test cases, and when we batch run, these are two different Java files having different test cases. When we batch run, when we build the project, we keep the dependent test cases in the same Java file. However, it is recommended in automation that the dependency should not be there between the tests. The whole scenario should be written once. BDD is also made in the same way. Okay, but you cannot help it. That's an ideal situation. In real world, I have never seen a project in which test cases are not dependent. So when test cases are dependent on each other, you have to put them in the same Java file. Put some priority and put some dependencies between them. That is the best way. You should actually try to do this to a minimum level. Okay, try to make all the tests and all the scenarios independent of each other. That is the best way. Best way because your life as a tester would be easy because when you run 5,000 test cases and all of them are independent, it's way easier than running 5,000 test cases out of which 1,000 are dependent on each other. So it creates a lot of problem. Okay. So generally, I prefer to have one test function in one Java file. That is the best. But that's the ideal situation. Sometimes you can't ignore that. Okay, right. So now this is about prioritizing. Okay, dependencies. Fine, guys. All right. Now the next thing. The next thing is there are many annotations in Testng. For example, if I make an annotation, if you write at the rate and hit Control spacebar, you will see all the annotations which are available to you, but you don't need all of them. Not every annotation is from Testng. There is an annotation known as before test. Okay, if I write over here public void before test, I make a function and I write over here, I'll put a star and I'll write over here before test. And there is an annotation known as after test. Okay, public void after test. And you can put a line and you can write after test over here. Okay. What I did. Sorry. It should be coming inside system.out.print. Okay, you import this. So when you run this, you will see that before test in the console is printed before executing all the test cases. After test is printed after executing all the test cases. is just printed once before and once after, and in between the test cases they execute. So maybe what you can do is that if all the three tests have to work on the same browser, you can open the browser over here and you can close the browser over here. Okay, you can do that. If you want to connect to database, you can connect to database over here and you can write the commands to connect to database and you can use that connection in all the three tests and you can close the database connection over here in after test. Okay, so some pre-conditions, some post-conditions you can do. We'll do it in the framework when we do it. Just first I'm just telling you the commands which are there in Testng. Okay, there is another function known as @before method. Okay, public void before method, right? And you type inside it before method. Okay, fine. And after method, public void after method. Okay, and you can print. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you keep these annotations. There is a predefined order in which they execute. I can keep them on the top, on bottom, it doesn't matter. Okay, so when you run this, you will see that before method and after method are printed before and after every test. Okay, suppose every test has to be, having a different report section in the reports. So you can initialize the reports for that particular test case over here, and in after method you can finalize the reports. We will do that. Every test has to have a different report, so you can do that. Okay, there are other annotations as well, before class, before suite. I don't want to talk about it right now, but these are the major annotations which we will be using. Okay, before method, after method, before test, after test, and before method and after method will be used a lot. All right, so these are the annotations. There is a predefined order in which they execute. It doesn't matter where you keep them in the file. You can keep them at the bottom, in between, anything, but the order will remain same. Okay. Anybody with any questions? Anyone with any questions? No, it won't conflict. Look, I'll tell you what the question is. The question which is being asked is, there is something known as prioritization and there is something known as dependency. Can they conflict? No. Prioritization means the order in which you will want to run the test cases. Okay, if this is my priority 1, 2 and 3, that means this priority 3 test case is dependent on priority 2 as well as priority 1. If any one of them fails, then priority 3 will be skipping because it is dependent on both the tests. Okay, dependency and prioritization are different. Prioritization defines the order in which the test case is run, and dependency defines the dependency between the test cases. If one is failing, then what will happen with the other one? Okay, right. Now, at times you would want to run one test case multiple times. Okay, I'll take up a simple example. Login. A very, very simple example. It's asked in a lot of interview questions that give me a scenario where you will have the test case where you would want to run the test case multiple times. So how do you do that? Okay, with different sets of data. So I'll just explain you. Out here, just one minute. Why is this not letting me? Test cannot be resolved as it. Hold on. Okay. Out here, what we do is we keep the data in a two-dimensional array. I hope you know what two-dimensional is. Okay. It's got multiple rows. I'll draw it in other. Hold on. I'll draw it in paint. In a two-dimensional array, you have got multiple rows and multiple columns. Okay. We keep the data in a two-dimensional array. The number of rows are equal to the number of times you want to run the test case. Okay. The first test case, say test case 1 will have the data in the first row. Okay. Then, or iteration 1 you can say, and iteration 2 of the test will have the test case data over here. Iteration 3 of the test case will have it over here like this. Okay. And number of columns are equals to number of parameters in the test case. For example, username, password. So for first test case, suppose this is my username, and then this is my dummy password, this is my phone number, and this is my email ID. Okay, this is my address, right? So for the second iteration, you can put some other username over here, u2 and p2 and phone number 2 like this. So every row will have the data for the corresponding run. And every cell has an index. This cell is 0 comma 0. This cell is 0 comma 1. Obviously, I think you must be knowing this much. Okay, that what are arrays, right? 0 comma 2, right? And 0 comma 3. If you don't know, please let me know. All right. And then this row will be 1 comma 0 like this. You put the data like this. So in TestNG, we put the data in a two-dimensional array. And what we do is, to run this test case multiple times with different sets of data, there are a few steps involved. Okay, the first step is major three steps are there. First step is to make something known as data provider. Hold on. Okay, public object get data. Fine. And you link the test case with the data provider. You write over here that this test case has the data provider as get data. Right, that the data of this test case is coming up from this data provider. There is a two-dimensional object array which we need to make. You create that two-dimensional object array and specify the number of rows and columns. Say I write 3 rows and 2 columns. Okay, fine. And hold on, I will fill this data array. Username 1. I'll fill the first row 0 0, right? And Hold on guys, just 1 minute, my PC. Yes, we will write 0 0 equals to u1, 0 1 equals to p1. So these are 3 rows and 2 columns. First parameter is rows. So this is my first row of data. Okay. Then similarly, I can put up the data in the consecutive rows. This is my second row, 1 0 1 1. Then my third row, 2 0. Okay, I can put some different data over here. U2, P2. Hold on. And U3, P3. And you return the data. So this get data function is associated with the do login, and you what you do is you hold on. So the first step, I was telling you steps. The first step is that you need to make a two-dimensional object array. This is the first step. You need to put the data inside the two-dimensional array in the data provider. Later on, we will read this data from the Excel file. Okay, the second step is you need to write data provider equals to get data. You need to link the test with the data provider. If you don't do, it won't run. And the third and the most important thing, the number of input parameters inside this test should be equal to number of columns. That means number of parameters in the test case. I have two input parameters, username and password. So now when you run this, Testng will automatically run. Testng will first read that fine, this test has the data provider as get data. It will go inside this. It will create the two-dimensional object array. It will put the values in it. Then it will run this test automatically 3 times. First, it will pass over u1 in username and p1 in password. It will execute the test. Then Testng will automatically call the test. It will pass u2 in username and p2 in password, like this. So when you run this, it will automatically run 3 times. See that first with u1 p1, u2 p2 and u3 p3. And it will say that total test runs are 3. Okay, because there are 3 iterations of the same test which have been executed. Okay, so you have to make sure that number of third step is very important. Number of parameters are same as the number of columns. If I put say 2 columns over here and if I just give one parameter, it will throw me an exception. It won't run. And this is a very common mistake which people do. Okay, for it's throwing an exception, failures. Okay, so please make sure that you don't do this common mistake. Fine. Okay. Now you can also run all the 3 tests together with help of a single file known as testng.xml. Okay, I'll tell you. Hold on. This is an XML file. I'll just copy this and I'll paste it in the project. So in this XML file, you specify all the tests. Okay, suppose this is my sample suite. You can write the suite name. The first test was buy from Amazon. You can put any test name over here. in the classes you have to give the right class name. That is, the package name was test case and the test name was by from Amazon test. Make sure that this name is correct. If this name is not correct, then you can't run this. Okay. Then second test was login test or validations. You can write test cases dot validations. You have to give the correct fully qualified name. And then the third test case was login test. This name you can give any name. This has to be the correct spelling, uppercase, lowercase, everything matters. So in this XML you mention all the test cases and they will be executed from top to bottom. Okay, you can right click on this XML file and select the option run as Testng suite. So it will run all the test cases in batch. Okay, everything is executed in batch. So this is how you run Testng. You work with Testng. Fine. Okay. So if anybody has any questions, you can let me know. I stop here.